Last year I went on the most stupid vacation of my life.
Oh, way down south in the land of traitors, rattlesnakes and alligators. Right away, come away, right away, come away.
So it all started when it was spring break and I wanted something to do because all my friends were out of town and I was bored. So I was looking at airfare and I remembered that Atlanta, Georgia was a really cheap place to fly to. And I was thinking I could fly down to Georgia, go to Six Flags, and go to Fun Spot Atlanta for Air Force One, make it a little day trip, 2-day trip, and then kind of fly back. And yeah. But as I was planning the trip, I realized that I could take a train from Atlanta to Charlotte and go to Carowinds. So, and the train was like 40, 50 bucks. So it was super worth it. And I really wanted to ride Fury, Copperhead, Afterburn, all that. So I was like, yeah, why not? So I booked my flight. I found a like $20 motel in Atlanta outside of Six Flags, maybe like a 41 in Charlotte, and the train booked that, got my flight back from the Charlotte airport, all good. The whole trip was maybe $300 total, including park tickets and food and stuff, so it was really cheap. So spring break comes around, and I'm heading to my airport, and I board the plane, all that, everything goes well, nice timely flight. And as I get on the plane, or as I'm flying to Atlanta, I feel myself coming down with something. And it's that, like, you feel it in your throat, or at least I feel it in my throat when I'm getting sick first. So I felt a little tickle coming on, and I could feel it in my nose, a little bit of congestion. I was like, oh shit, this is gonna be a interesting vacation. I'm just sitting there hoping that, like, oh, maybe it's just allergies, maybe it's just plain sickness, but I was coping. It was definitely, I was coming down with something. So I get off the plane in Atlanta, and I have the hardest time trying to get out of this airport because it's massive and I've never been before. So I was wandering around trying to find the Uber pickup spot, and eventually I found it. And I had a really cool Uber driver. He gave me a water, and I was like, oh yeah, is this free? Thank you. And I was like, yeah, and he's like, you're smart for asking, and I'm like, yeah, I just don't want to be charged. But yeah, he was super nice. He had some funny stories, and I was taking this Uber on the way to Fun Spot Atlanta. I think it's worth mentioning some of the stories this guy told me, because holy shit, apparently being an Uber driver in Atlanta is insane. One of them I can't really tell on YouTube. The other story was of this guy who got into his car and was like super emotional, and he was like crying and sobbing, and he was telling all these stories, and he was like, all of the stories were about comic book characters. Like, he was crying over something that like happened to Batman and one of the Batman comics, and the Uber driver was like, I didn't really know what to say to him, so I was just kind of smiling and nodding. So apparently that's the kind of customers you get when you're driving in a big city like that. So anyways, he dropped me off at Fun Spot, and I got on Air Force One. Fun Spot was like, I think I got there with like 2 hours left in the day, and I was pulling up, I got my $40 ticket, and he's like, we're closing in 2 hours, right? And I'm like, yeah, I don't care, I just want a couple laps on Air Force. So yeah, I walk up to Air Force. It's massive, of course. Everything that everyone says about this park is so accurate. It's just a giant, insane RMC in the middle of like a county fair setup. And rest in peace, by the way. And I got 8 rides on Air Force, and I loved it. For a moment, it was my #1 coaster for sure. And actually recently, right before the closure announcement, I was thinking back on this experience, and I'm like, yeah, Air Force probably is my favorite roller coaster. I just love the mix of negatives, positives, hang time, whip. The double up is insane, the stall is insane, the outer bank, the arcade roll, just every element is like perfect, and the finale is just like comical. But yeah, I got my 8 laps on Air Force. And I was kind of forgetting that I was sick, but it was still there in the back of my mind. And after the 8th lap, I was like, I'm a little jet lagged, I'm a little sick, I'm not feeling super great right now. So I don't get the other credits at the park, I just kind of, which I regret now that the park is closing. But yeah, I didn't get like Hurricane or the little Dragon Wagon. I just got my Air Force laps. I tried every row, and then I left. I had some really good rides in the middle, actually. So yeah, I got my Uber out, and I started heading towards my $20 motel. And this motel is hands down the sketchiest place I've ever been in my life. It was one of those motels where people just kind of live at because it's cheaper than rent. And so there was locals, there was people like sitting out on the porch smoking, and there was kind of a chill vibe to it during the day, but it was also a little bit like, this doesn't feel like the safest place. And compounded by the fact that when I got into my hotel room, I saw a blood stain or something on the toilet. It might have been poop, but yeah, like a little brown, either dried blood or poop stain on top of the toilet. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. The room was fine, the bed was comfy, well made, but definitely felt like a $20 motel experience. And this was right outside of Six Flags, basically just like 2 miles, 3 miles down the road. So that night, the sickness is really kicking in, it's getting really bad. So like, I'm not breathing well because my nose is plugged up and my throat is itchy, and I try to sleep because I have Six Flags coming up the next day, and I manage about 30 minutes to an hour of sleep. I kept myself awake by playing WarioWare, I think, what is it, Get It Together on Switch, the one with motion controls, and I felt completely insane. I was like, I should be going to bed, but I can't do it, and I'm here playing WarioWare in my $20 motel with blood on the walls instead. But yeah, I did get like a little 30-minute nap in, and then I woke up, went to Wendy's, I got a little breakfast sandwich, and then I started my walk to Six Flags. So this was the first of 2 insane highway experiences that I had down south. For the most part, it was kind of what I'm used to from my like small hometown. There wasn't really a sidewalk, but there was kind of like a shoulder that I could walk on kind of in the grass, depending on certain parts. There was one part on that walk where I had to step out into the road because there was a tree hanging over. So that was cool. Stepping out into oncoming traffic for a little bit. I got past the tree and I went right back into that, the dirt on the side. And then I kept walking to Six Flags. I think at some point I had tried like walking into like a turnaround or something, and the security guard was like, hey, you can't walk here. So I was like, oh shit. And then I like turned around and I crossed the street, found the pedestrian entrance. And I just got the feeling that like, I don't think anyone has walked this distance to Six Flags before. Like maybe from one of the closer hotels that were basically on site, but I felt crazy doing that. It's definitely one of those parks that's meant to be driven into. It had a really long like entrance driveway too, like half a mile long past the like Six Flags road sign. So that was interesting. But I get into Six Flags and I go straight for Twisted Cyclone. And it's great. It complements Air Force One really well, I think. It's definitely not as good, but it's still an RMC. Any RMC is a great time. The wave turn is fantastic. It's got great airtime. The rolls are really good. I really like the like Cobra roll thing. I don't know what you would call that. The thing at the start of the ride that like turns you around. I thought that was super unique and fun. But I'm on this ride and the guy sitting next to me is like, picture a guy from Georgia turned up to like 100, crazy conspiracy nut. He was telling me like how the government fakes the weather and stuff. I'm like, oh boy. I am really in the deep south right now. But I got my laps on Twisted Cyclone. It was super fun. I went around and did all the other coasters in the park. Georgia Gold Rusher was phenomenal. Like, I really was not expecting to like that ride as much as I did. And actually, I didn't even think I would get on the ride because they had a sign outside that was like, pass holder preview. I was in Six Flags for opening day that year, by the way. So I really didn't think I was going to get on Georgia Gold Rusher because it had the sign that was like, pass holder preview. If you have your pass, you can ride before 4 p.m. or whatever. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm probably not going to get to ride it then. Seems like an exclusive event, and I didn't have a pass that year. So I'm like, whatever. I do the rest of the park. Riddler Mindbender was fun. Batman, my first Bat clone, was really good. Super whippy and intense. Let's see what else. Daredevil Dive was fine. It broke down while I was in the station about to dispatch, so that was interesting. Apparently it breaks down all the time. And yeah, that was pretty much, yeah, I mean, you know, I did like the Mine Train, I did all the little stuff there. Great American Scream Machine was insanely rough, but it had really good airtime, so I enjoyed it. And let's see, Blue Hawk was down, so I didn't get to do that one. Oh, and Superman, I was in line for that one, and I waited upwards of like an hour and a half, 2 hours, because it would take a train full of people and it would break down, and it would take another train and it would break down. It was not running well that day, but you know, I eventually got on it, got the credit, and that's the only Superman flyer that I've been on, but it was pretty good. Really like the terrain interactions on that one. Then I headed back to around Georgia Gold Rusher, and it was after 4 p.m. at this point. And I noticed the sign is down, and I asked the guy, like, can you just, like, get in line? Because I saw people in line. And I was like, can I get in line without a pass? And he's like, oh, yeah, sure. I'm like, oh, okay. So I got Georgia Gold Rusher, and if you had heard anything about this ride last year, you would know that it wasn't really spinning. I think they did something to it in the off-season, and then, you know, it's shut down right now. But, like, it was spinning a little bit at the start of this year, but when I was riding, it was barely even a rotation. But, like, I didn't really care. If you've ever been on Pantheon, the backwards airtime hill is basically what this entire ride is. It's launches propelling you forwards and backwards, crazy backwards ejector over the airtime hill, and nice, like, hang time when you're at the top. And you get to take it, like, sideways, or at least I did, because I chose one of the sideways facing seats. So yeah, that was fantastic. That was, I liked it more than Twisted Cyclone and Goliath. But yeah, I got on Goliath too, and that was pretty good. I don't remember it too well. I was kind of, at this point in the day, I was, like, really out of it. I wasn't comprehending too much, but I remember liking it. Definitely a solid B&M hyper there. One of the better ones, at least for my one ride on it. I would have loved to have rode in the back, but I was just, like, so dead. Then I went to the front of the park and I rode the stand-up Georgia Scorcher, and that was really fun. It took like 5 minutes to dispatch because they were being so, like, strange about getting people on the trains, and people kept, like, trying to sit down in it, and they'd have to, like, undo the restraints and be like, nope, don't sit down, you gotta stand up, it's a stand-up. And so that was interesting, but the ride itself was really fun. Super intense, really nice inversions. And then I was, yeah, pretty much done for the day. I got all the credits except for Joker, because it had like an hour line and I didn't really feel like waiting for it. Oh, and I rode Monster Mansion, and that was, like, honestly my favorite thing in the park. It was so fun. I'm just a sucker for those, like, classic dark rides with tons of animatronics. So yeah, and then I left the park. I got my Uber out, and I went back to my motel around 5, 6, and I had my train to Charlotte coming up at 11 that night. So I'm trying to get a little nap in before the train arrives. And I do manage to sleep a little bit. I get maybe like a 3-hour nap. So still very far from a full night's worth of sleep, but it was something. So yeah, I get my sleep. head to downtown Atlanta to get on the train and to start heading to Charlotte. So the train ride is beautiful, by the way, going through like most of Georgia, really, because Atlanta's pretty far south in Georgia. And then South Carolina was beautiful. Went through this like botanical garden that I'd really love to see during the day when it's bright out. Yeah, I got to North Carolina at about 4 in the morning, 4:30 maybe. So I get off the train, and I'm just outside of downtown. I can see the skyline, highway leading into it. Very interesting how it basically drops off into nothing as soon as you get out of downtown and by the train station. But I'm walking in, and it's like 4 a.m. Not necessarily the comfiest vibe in the world being in a city at 4 in the morning, and it was dead. Like, there was nobody outside. I was the only one. And so I'm walking around, and I see rain in the forecast. I'm like, uh-oh. But that'll come in later. It wasn't really raining yet. But I'm walking around, turn a couple streets. I run into the downtown science museum, and it's they have this display outside that's meant to like measure you, and then a speaker will tell you how tall you are. And I didn't know it was there. I just kind of walked by it, and the speaker was like, "You are 0 feet tall." And I'm like, "What?" And then I see that there's this display out there, and apparently it wasn't working, or it was too dark to measure me or something. So I'm 0 feet tall. But anyways, I keep walking, I turn a corner, and there's this like tweaker on the side of the road, and I don't even notice her, and I turn the corner, and she starts screaming, and I'm like, oh shit. And I turn around, and I basically just go back the way I came, and I take a note of what street that was, and I just kind of avoid it for the rest of the morning. The reason I'm wandering around is that Carowinds didn't open until like 10 a.m., so I had time to kill. And so yeah, I was kind of exploring downtown Charlotte, found myself in like a very deserted, tiny little mall thing, and that was kind of my base for the next couple hours. Especially when it started to rain, I was just kind of camping out in there. But I was on so little sleep and so sick at this point. I was like fully in the clutches of sickness. So I would describe it as borderline hallucinating at this point. Like, I think a security guard came up to me at some point and was like, "Hey, you gotta get out of this mall, man." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Or at least that was how I took it. But I found a little diner, like a 24-hour diner, and I got a chicken and waffles, and it was so good. It was like the best chicken and waffles I've ever had in my life. I was starving at this point too, because I hadn't eaten much the last day. Yeah, and then so I just kind of hang around that diner until Carowinds opens, and I get my Uber over to the park, and the guy's telling me, he's like, "Yeah, I'm from New Jersey. I used to work at Great Adventure." I'm like, "Oh, that's sick." And he's like, "Yeah, Carowinds is great too." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm so excited to go." And he drops me off at the staff entrance of the park, which at Carowinds, the staff entrance is the back end of the park, like out by Afterburn and all that stuff back there. And it's about a mile away from the main entrance, maybe 3/4 of a mile, we'll say. And at this point, it's like downpouring. Some of the heaviest rain I've ever been in. And I'm at the wrong side of the park. And in my delusional state, I don't think like, oh, maybe I could talk to the people at the back of the park. Maybe they could like escort me to the front, or hell, just call another Uber and, you know, eat the little extra expense and get myself to the front of the park safely. I'm thinking, well, guess it's time to walk to the front of the park, because I just didn't get enough of that deep south highway infrastructure in Georgia. So I'm walking down Carowinds Boulevard, no sidewalk again, in the pouring rain. Every time a car passes by, I get splashed by like a 10-foot wall of water because there's so much still water on the ground. And by the time I get to the front entrance of Carowinds, I'm like, I don't even know if the rides are gonna open because the weather is so terrible. And like, I knew in the forecast that the sun was supposed to come up around like 11, but I was still like irrationally afraid that like Fury wasn't gonna open. But as I'm walking up to the parking lot, I see Intimidator or Thunderstriker testing, and I'm like, oh my god, it's happening. And I'm like, well, okay. I'm still a little anxious that Fury's not going to open because, it's 300 feet tall. It's probably more sensitive to weather than Thunderstriker. And I'm like, maybe I won't get on all the rides. Then I scan in and I walk up to the front gate. The anthem starts playing and I can hear Fury testing. And I'm not a particularly patriotic guy, but the relief of Fury testing during the national anthem and the sun's like coming out, the clouds are clearing up. I could have cried. I think I did cry a little bit. I was so proud to be an American in that moment. But yeah, I book it straight to Fury, get some morning rides. It's incredible. It's fantastic. It's everything that people say it is. It's like Leviathan, which I'd already been on, but longer, faster, taller. Just everything you could want out of a Giga. Amazing ride. Love it to pieces. And I'm so glad I got to ride it. I also don't remember it as well as some other Gigas I've been, but really every other Giga I've been on. Because I got like 5 rides, and at this point I was on maybe 7 hours of sleep total over a 72-hour period. So I was not doing well, like emotionally and physically. But yeah, I loved it. Then I go around, I do the rest of the stuff in the park. It's dead because it was downpouring and people didn't realize that it was cleared up yet. Or, it was kind of taking people a while to filter in. So I had the park to myself for a solid like 5 hours in the morning as the sun was just coming up. So, I ride Copperhead, get like 5 walk-ons, which I hear is not typical for that ride. You usually have to wait like 30 minutes per ride minimum. But yeah, I got a bunch of rides on Copperhead. That was fantastic. I love the hang time on that ride and the little airtime pops at the end. Really great compliment to Fury. I did Afterburn, which is also pretty good. Although I think I like Batman over Georgia a little bit more. Yeah, I did the Mine Train, Carolina Cyclone, Flying Cobras, the Boomerang. Trying to think what else. There's probably... Oh yeah, I did Thunderstriker as well, and that was alright. I think I like Apollo's Chariot a little bit more when it comes to B&M hypers, and or at least just for the setting on that one. And then, yeah, I was pretty much done with Carowinds. I knocked out all the rides. I did some of the cool flat rides, like the Huss Top Scan thing. I don't know if that's what the model is called, but the one that's like on a stick, and then there's a star shape that kind of spins you around, and that one was really fun. I had the train to myself on that one. I had the vehicle to myself on a lot of these rides. I was kind of the only one on it, so I'm sure they were kind of running slow. Not a lot of train weight. It wasn't super hot out. But the park started filling in around like 3 p.m. And I had already done everything I wanted to, and I had done most of the rides like 5 times each. I was like, you know what? I haven't slept in at least like 50 hours at this point. At least I hadn't slept much. I slept a little on the train. So I was like, might as well just head back to my motel in Charlotte and try to get a little sleep before my flight at 4 in the morning. So yeah, I get my Uber back to the motel. It's pretty nice. It was cheap, but really, aside from the like cigar smell, it didn't smell, or it wasn't that different of an experience from most hotels that I stay in. It was a Super 8 and it was pretty nice, so I would go back there probably, just for the price and the proximity. And then I sleep. Well, I order a little dinner for. I think I get like a sub from Firehouse, and then I go to sleep, and I sleep from like 4 p.m. to 4 in the morning because my flight from Charlotte is at like 5 in the morning. Get up at 4, take my Uber to the airport. I think I have plenty of time because usually getting to the airport an hour early is plenty for me. But I get held up in security because my shoes are still soaked from the previous day. At least this is my theory. They rescanned my shoes like 5 times, and I think it was because it was wet. So I'm spending like 40 minutes in the security line just stuck. And then I get out of the security, and it's like a mile-long walk to my terminal because I'm all the way at the end of the airport. And I have like 15 minutes before boarding closes, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna get stuck. I'm gonna get stuck in Charlotte. And I'm still like, I slept for a while the last night, but I'm still a little bit messed up physically and emotionally. I'm still a little bit sick. I'm kind of coming off of it at this point, but I'm still not in the best state. So I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna get stuck in Charlotte. I'm gonna have to rebook. I'm gonna have to spend like $100 on another flight, and or like $300 honestly at that point, because last minute flights are like that. But I made it. I got to the boarding station with like 5 minutes left before they closed boarding. I'm like, oh, I'm here. And I get on the plane, and I fly home. So, yeah, crazy trip down south. Definitely the best and worst coaster experience I've ever had in my life. Just all the crazy shit that happened. The coasters were great. I think definite highlights: Fury, Georgia Gold Rusher, Copperhead, Airy Force, Goliath, Twisted Cyclone. All fantastic rides. Definitely worth the trip. But also just being in like the worst state of my life made it really interesting, that whole experience. But yeah, I don't regret doing it. It was super fun. And if you're trying to do these parks without a car, the Atlanta to Charlotte train is like actually pretty good. So yeah, that is my experience. Thanks for watching.